So look, just to give the listeners a quick introduction about yourself. This obviously we have Eric here on today, the CEO of Enter the Void, a super exciting project building on the Hypergraph network. Eric's a relatively experienced entrepreneur, and working very hard with a experienced team of people to bring forward a project that I believe is going to completely revolutionize NFTs and the space as we know it. Now, on the AMAs, I like to try and give the audience and the future listeners that will listen to the recorded version of this a bit of an idea about the team, about yourself. So, would you mind sort of just starting off with a little bit of information about your track record, how you came to the idea of the void, and just sort of how you built up to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the entrepreneurial world, I'll call it the entrepreneur's journey because it is a journey, for roughly the past 8 years. A number of years ago, I started a continuing education platform with me and my wife. We went on to certify several hundred students across North America from Canada and US. We then, COVID came around, we turned that into a fully online digital platform, which was really great because it allowed me to step away in tandem with that business, which was really fun, by the way. It was very hands-on. It was way different than, sitting in front of the computer all day, but it was very hands-on, very, in-person certifications. We had a level 1, a level 2. We led in-person retreats. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great time. And then I went on to start another business in tandem with that one. It was a photo biomodulation company, which is a very fancy word for light therapy. So I started a light therapy company where I was selling these products, and it was a true one-man show. I did everything from product sourcing, supplier relationships, shipping, digital marketing, online sales, web design, social media management. Every single aspect of the business you could have thought of, it was literally ran by me. Scaled that business to do roughly 500,000 in revenue in less than 2 years. And at the time, the only money I had invested into it was originally a $2,000 in order to build the website and get everything going, and then $700 in advertising throughout those 2 years. And we scaled it pretty efficiently, essentially just using, organic community growth marketing tactics, which is kind of my thing. If you've noticed, like, community is a very important part of my world. It's how I got involved with Constellation. It trickles into everything that we do with the Void. If you've been part of our Voyager challenge or our reveal puzzle that we did, which was called Soon, for all of our OGs that are listening. So community engagement, community growth, community incentives and strategies is kind of something that I'm very fond of and that I kind of stuck my flag in. So that's kind of a little bit more about my background. That company was actually acquired, that I started, the Red Light Company, was acquired in 2021 by a group of angels. So I was fortunate enough to sell that business right near the start of the bull run, or like kind of like a couple months into the bull run. And it freed up all my time to go fully into crypto. So I was able to have all my time. My other business was fully online and we were phasing that out. I sold this business and I was like, now's my chance, now's my time, jump into crypto. Started another crypto education course, which was at the time called the Digital Dive, which is where Mr. Digital Dive comes from. And then grew that into a private group. Ended up working in the Constellation ecosystem, got pulled into the Stardust Collective for a bit of time, and started working with other ecosystem projects, helping them launch into the community, doing things with content strategy, every now and then helping with things like tokenomics and white papers and stuff like that. And ultimately, throughout that time, I was meeting a number of people, such as the members on our team: Andy, Joe, Tim. Another one of our team members, Michelle, I've known her my whole life. She's my sister. So
Mhm.
it's very convenient. And so we just kind of came together and we were like, listen, this is very, very innovative technology. We really want to get involved. Andy has been in the crypto space. Andy on our team has been, he's a true crypto OG. I think he's been in for like 9 or 10 years at this point. So big shout out to Andy. And he's a big time NFT maxi. And it was really his idea. He was like, hey, like, you know, I'm super involved in the NFT world. I was super involved in the constellation world. I was already working with Joe on another project. Michelle's working in another Web3 project. And Tim, we just call the GOAT because he's a genius. So, Tim, if you're listening to this or you're listening now, big shout outs to Tim, the brain behind all of it. So we came together like the Avengers with the Infinity Stones and just were like, let's do this. And it started out with the marketplace. And ultimately, you know, as we got more involved and we realized like we're so early to this that we're not just building the marketplace, but we're building the market for it. Like we're building the NFT world inside of this ecosystem. And there's so many different parts to that, not just a marketplace, but there's the NFT standard. There's the NFT standard. If you want this to be a truly open ecosystem too, that anyone can participate, like what different elements of that are necessary to have a flourishing ecosystem, which is kind of how we've taken our approach and why you've seen us evolve from just like, you know, an open marketplace for anyone in the ecosystem to really the many different things that we're doing now in order to take NFTs as a whole to a whole new level by creating a new market of dynamic and programmable smart NFT applications, which is where we are today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that like you say, you guys are 100% very early to this space, and I liked your point of we're not just building a marketplace, we're building the market, and that's something that won't be done overnight, and
Oh no.
we'll continue to. There'll be so much that will, this isn't an emerging market that has so much reach potential in the world
Mm-hmm.
that it's probably quite hard to fathom right now, even though you're on the front line and you're the one, you and your team are building this out. It's probably quite hard for you to imagine exactly how far this can go. And that's extremely exciting. So I think just real quick, I want to sort of pull it back a little bit for current and future listeners, because, if you're in the crypto space, you would have heard of an NFT. You'd likely associate it with BAYC or CryptoPunks or something like that. But I feel that NFTs are largely misunderstood by the wider community. So I'm really interested to hear your explanation of what an NFT is. Like, how would you describe it to someone who hasn't heard of it before?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, essentially an NFT is just an immutable record on a blockchain. It allows people to essentially validate or authenticate the true ownership of some form of digital good. And before that, you know, there like if you had an image online, let's say at the most basic example, some form of like artwork that you created online, you know, the whole screenshot right click save thing that people say is like, well, I could steal that essentially and use it for my own. But with blockchain, because there's a record of that exists on an immutable blockchain, now we have this new way of being able to prove who actually owns what. And that's what's called an NFT, or a non fungible token. It's called non fungible because you can't change it. It is what it is. Once it exists, it's wholly unique in its own existence, and therefore we have an NFT. Now, the really interesting thing about the NFT space as a whole is that one, it's grown exponentially over the last couple of years. I think, you know, OpenSea in 2019 maybe did like cumulatively 5 million in transaction volume a month, and then about a year and a half later they did like 5 billion in a single month. So there's a huge market for the NFT world, and we've seen a ton of global brands and companies entering into the NFT space. Lots of money is flowing into the NFT space And it's a lot different from crypto because, crypto is, I guess you can call it more of like the infrastructure and payment side, where NFTs are more of like the consumer retail. It could even be like supply chain and logistics side, which is also crypto. But there's a lot of really unique things that you can do with this idea of having something immutable, an immutable record of something, in this case, a token that lives on a blockchain. And it's everything from intellectual property rights. You're seeing a lot of really cool things happening with NFTs and what's that word? Realtor space, real estate. Wow, brain
Yeah.
fart. Real estate space, music, intellectual property rights. Like there's a lot of different things that are happening in the space. But there's this weird thing that's happening right now where you're seeing a lot of excitement around these great ideas for NFTs. But the single fact is that most exciting ideas of an NFT essentially fall apart because the existing technology and standards that are being utilized for these NFTs are not up to speed with the exciting idea of that use case, if that makes sense. So a lot of these really interesting things that people are talking about being able to do with NFTs, the way that the current existing infrastructure is set up is that it can't really support those amazing ideas, especially at scale. And that's where we're showing up here to be like, we feel wholeheartedly like we've solved these problems, and that all the excitement and things around the utility of NFTs in this Web3 space that we can actually deliver on and do it in a scalable and affordable and safe way.
Yeah, and that's how generally the most successful projects are born. They are fulfilling a need that doesn't exist already. So,
Mm-hmm.
like you said very well yourself, you see a lot of people talking about NFTs, but you like a lot of the time you're hearing that people are saying, well, it needs utility. And I don't think that's just in the NFT space. It's also crypto as a whole. I think we've had a few different cycles now, and there's been a few cycles of coins, and everybody gets wrecked, and the bear market starts, and then everyone's like, right, I better not invest in them anymore. I need to actually look for um, tokens that have intrinsic value. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to the DAG ecosystem, and I'm sure it was similar to yourself and most of the people listening, was the utility that it enables projects to create. Uh, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and also another thing you said there about 5 billion in revenue for OpenSea, and that's just with NFTs in their current form. So
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
in the form that you guys are talking about a few years down the line when things are really moving forward. I think the market is going to be hard to measure, to be honest, at this stage.
Yeah. And you know what? Like we talk about this all the time. Like there's a difference because the and it's so funny because the existing infrastructure and standards, and because of some of the network limitations such as like fees and confirmation times and like just how slow and heavy some of these chains can be, metaphorically speaking and actually speaking, is that it's created a market of basically investment opportunities instead of using the technology for new consumer applications. So it's bred this culture of like flipping. People talk about flipping NFTs all the time, but they're talking about flipping NFTs all the time, and they're looking at this as a investment opportunity because there's really one true use case for the existing NFT world, which is it's an immutable static data container. That's essentially what it is in its most like basic form. And that has bred this market of like essentially community hype around certain NFT projects, trying to gain enough community engagement to bring value to their NFT holdings to look for a flipping opportunity. That's not really the purpose that we're looking to achieve with the technology. And I guess the difference is that we're with our technology going to move the market from, you know, not just an investment opportunity, but an area where people are creating purpose-driven applications that can be used in everyday life for everyday things. Whether it's on the enterprise side, you have some form of enterprise business and you want to use one of our NFT applications as some extension of your Web 2 system. Or if you're just like a regular person and you're like, hey, I want to construct a decentralized lottery with my friends really quickly. Let me, create one of these NFT applications. And we'll get into like all the stuff that we're building later. I don't want to jump too far ahead. But just to give you an example of like, there's going to be these two different worlds, which are going to be what we, want to call complex and non-complex NFTs. Like there's a difference between the digital art and collectibles world, which is perfectly fine being in a mutable static data container. But when you start talking about like complex, dynamic, programmable NFTs that carry some form of, custom logic or custom data inside of it that's dynamic, we're talking about a completely different market. And we have a novel idea, and what we've created is the ability to actually build these things to give the NFT space true purpose, true value, true utility.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're positioned in a great position to be able to progress on what it is that you guys are looking to do. So that brings me on nicely to the sort of next question that I had. So I feel like it's quite clear the market that you guys are looking at. It's clear that there's a need for it. It's clear that it's a very large market. But how are you going to make this happen? So you have the NFTs, what you call smart NFTs, and what's the process? How do you guys take the NFT and turn it into what you would call a smart NFT? And what does that look like? And give us an example of that.
Oh, great question. So let's start with a little bit of contrast, right? So if you wanted to launch, let's say, an NFT on Ethereum, there's, you could either just mint an NFT very simply, like you could go to OpenSea and you could, use their service, and you can just mint a regular static image as an NFT. Very simple. But if you wanted to add some form of customization to that NFT, really what got really popular in the existing market were these generative NFTs, where you essentially click a button and you get a randomized NFT from a predetermined, pre-made collection. So that is kind of like what it existingly looks like. So that's their kind of way of adding some form of customization to an NFT with a smart contract. So that's how they would add some form of logic to an NFT. But what Ethereum cannot do is they cannot run validation on custom business logic. It would take down the whole network, even with the merge. I don't know if many of you are familiar, but there was even a time where a game actually took CryptoKitties at one point took down a whole network. So you really can't run. You do, right? You can't really run these complex applications that have really specific custom logic in an NFT because, one, the fees are just crazy. They don't actually have the ability to validate that logic and have that processed validation live on chain. So there's a number of existing challenges that kind of exist on that side. But in using Constellation, we can actually run validation on complex logic. So it effectively gives us this ability to create these, what we want to call like a mini software program, which is, and I'll get into what we call that in a second, but essentially we take these building blocks, these custom data type blocks. So a data type is essentially envision it like a Lego block. And each of these Lego blocks has some form of custom logic associated with it. So what we've done is we are creating an open source data type library for people to assemble these Lego blocks, which is different sets of custom logic, to build these complex applications. So we're really reducing the complexity because it's not like you need to get a smart contract developer, and I'll get into the whole auditing thing later of what that looks like for us. But essentially, users will come together, they'll pull code from our open source library of data types, they'll assemble them together, and then we use our protocol, NFGP, in order to run validation on those custom data types, which is again just specific logic. And ultimately, the result of that is the creation of a new application as an NFT.
Okay, so basically what you're doing is taking the NFT and you're beefing it up with lots of different functionality. Essentially, well, I mean, I guess the functionality is only really limited to the imagination of the developer, and
Bingo.
you're yeah, and which is awesome. So you're you're essentially creating the ability for projects, businesses, influencers, creators, whatever, to be able to utilize NFTs in a smart way to manage and facilitate many different things automatically. It's not something that has to be done manually. Businesses can incorporate these NFGs or these smart NFTs into their processes and benefit from all of the benefits that come from
Mm-hmm.
the technology, which is non fungible tokens.
Right. And now think about this too, like just to give you an example of kind of what one of these may look like. Let's say you wanted to create a membership subscription. Okay. And let's say we had 4 different data types that made up that membership subscription. So, and remember, this is a really important part too, is that we act as our own oracle. That's the beauty of using Constellation, is we don't use a third-party oracle to validate external information. We can run validation on off-chain data sources and process logic, which is how we're able to achieve these dynamic and programmable NFTs. And one more really important piece about all of this, and we can get into a lot of the developer stuff in a little bit, is that typically if you wanted to do something like, launch an NFT on Ethereum with a smart contract, you need to know Solidity. Or if you want to launch an NFT collection on Solana, you need to know Rust. So there's these, developer siloed ecosystems that are taking place, and you really don't see the negative impact of that. And it really limits innovation because there are perfectly good seasoned developers that have been doing JavaScript for 10 years. And, there's Python developers, and there's such larger communities with the years of more experience that want to get involved in Web3, but they don't have a door into it. So our solution is actually language agnostic. So if you know Java, JavaScript, Golang, C, C++, Sharp, whatever existing programming language you want, you can build one of these NFT applications. We're not creating another siloed ecosystem. So I think that's a really important point to what we're doing, where previously you had to know Solidity or you had to know Rust. And if you didn't, even if you're a developer with years of experience, you got to pay some smart contract developer just to get involved in Web3. Now we're opening the door for millions of new developers to enter Web3 using our solution. So
Yeah.
slightly off topic, but an
No,
important point nonetheless.
for sure. That's like I absolutely love that, and I think when you have any revolution technologically, one of the biggest issues is being able to architect that technology for mass adoption. Like it was the same with the internet and websites, and you had, the old WordPress site where it allowed kind of regular people to build and create their own websites, which exponentially grew the the growth of the adoption of people going online. And whenever I talk to people about Constellation, and some people say to me, well, what's so great about the hypergraph? And the biggest thing, obviously, it's great that it's feeless, it's great that it's infinitely scalable, but what I love so much about it is that it integrates with third party current traditional technology, which just makes it so much easier for people to build. And if you build it, people will come. If the technology is better, it will naturally gravitate over to whatever it is that you're now building. So for you guys to be able to allow developers to easily integrate and come over and build with you, it's massive, isn't it? To be able to home all of those, insanely creative people that wouldn't do it purely because they haven't got 5 years to learn a new code, so
Oh, exactly, exactly. And just for contrast here, there's roughly at this moment 18,000 active developers in Web3, like across all Web3. Only about 18,000. At the height of the bull run, there was roughly 48,000, 45 or 48,000 all developers in Web3. Now, we're going to contrast that with the 26.5 million software developers in the world, JavaScript being the largest one, with I think something around like 12.5 million developers. Like, so while Web3 has made a lot of progress in bringing new developers into these ecosystems, but they constrain themselves by saying, hey, come build on our network, but you have to learn Solidity, which is a new language. And Solidity wasn't optimized in order to build really complex custom applications, but Solidity was used to be a measure of gas. So it wasn't built for some of the things that we're talking about. And of course, there's been some development over time in creating new standards and things have improved. But at the end of the day, you can really do a lot more things using, our solution and our existing standards and infrastructure than you would with the current technology. So it is
yeah.
a big difference. We do use the WordPress analogy as well, that we're allowing anyone to come and create these NFTs with whatever language they want. Whereas before, there were these, like I said, you could have been a great JavaScript developer of 10 years, but it doesn't matter. You can't get into Web3 unless you learn Solidity or unless you learn Rust or whatever, which is very limiting in terms of adoption and innovation.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I think to get people to understand that, it would basically be saying, you can come and have this job, but you have to speak Spanish.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Oh, what a great metaphor.
Yeah, and most people wouldn't bother with that. It would be not efficient enough. They would have to spend way too much time trying to learn, and that would severely impact their earning abilities. And they've got families to look after and a life to live. So I think making it easy is so important when it comes to adopting new technology. So I think you know we've established with you guys that there's a massive market here. You're ahead of the curve in terms of the fact that you're looking to build the market out, and what you've essentially done is built the bridge to say to all these developers that you can come and build with us. You don't need to learn a new coding language. And what I love so much about what is happening on the hypergraph is the value exchange that it's building with the gig economy. I
Mhm.
think that it's looking through your white paper and understanding what you guys are doing, you're aligning the incentives with everybody that's involved in the project. I'll let you explain, because you'll probably explain it better than me. But so obviously you guys have got these developers. What's the incentive for them to come and work with you? What What's going to come from the exodus of developers from Web 2 over to Web 3? They're going to come and build with Enter the Void, use their expertise. How's that going to look? Because you guys have done something quite interesting there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are creating a new gig economy around our open source library. So typically, contributing to open source technology, it's open source. Like you either have a vested interest, or maybe you are contracted, but you're not always paid for open source contributing to open source technology. But what we've done is we've very much like the WordPress model, and just to give people an analogy, if you ever used WordPress, you have these different plugins. And when you combine these different plugins, you basically create a new experience, which in this case results in a custom website. We're doing the same thing for the developers that contribute to our open source library. So this is how this is all going to work. Let's say you're a developer, right? And let's say you're commissioned to, someone comes to you and says, hey, like I've got this idea for this really cool NFT game, like an entire game. Like you want to run Call of Duty in Enter the Void, right? Maybe we'll call it Halo because it's a little more spacey. Maybe it fits the theme a little bit more. And you say, hey, but I want these specific data types to be built, which is again just custom logic in order to run this complex NFT application. So you as the developer, you create, let's say, 3 different data types. What will happen is those data types will go through a community-led audit. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But they will go through an audit. If it passes a successful audit, it will then go into our open source library. Once it's in the open source library after a community-led audit and a vote to merge it there through governance, now what you have is a bunch of safe, audited code inside our open source library. Here's the best part of that for the developer. Why would I, as the developer, go through this process? Well, because anytime someone uses your code moving forward, uses your custom data types that you created, you will get paid for it every single time. So you as the developer can assign some form of value to that data type. Maybe it's a very non-complex one and you want to, it's $20. Anytime someone uses this data type, I get $20 for it. Well, now think about this at scale, $20, $20, $20, $20. Anytime someone uses your data type, you're essentially getting, what we would call maybe a micropayment for it. Or maybe you're saying, hey, this data type took me a lot of time and it's a very niche, language, and maybe it's $1,000. It's totally up to the developer. It's up to devs to determine the value of their data types. And so anytime that you create a custom data type, you will get paid for it every single time moving forward indefinitely. And so that's how we're incentivizing developers to basically take up this new gig, and this is why we're calling it a gig economy, of saying, hey, you want a custom data type? I can build that for you. Whatever language, it doesn't matter. It's totally up to them. And so that's essentially the incentive that we're providing for developers. It can be a royalty. It can just be a pay per use. So even if it's, let's say, sold on the secondary market, the developer can even choose to put like a secondary sale royalty in it if they want to. It's completely up to them. So that's the incentive that we're providing developers, who can not only get paid for their time, but then paid moving forward every single time their work is used again. Where traditionally, if you get paid to write a smart contract, once you're done, that's it. Like if you're lucky, you got a royalty and you worked out a deal with like the creator, or maybe you're the creator yourself, but ultimately you're paid for your time.
Yeah, and I think when you're looking to build the healthiest ecosystem and project in any walk of life, it's so important to align the incentives of everybody involved. And I think the way that you guys have done that has achieved that perfectly, because not only do you inspire creativity from developers, they're obviously going to be rewarded for that, but then what you get from that is a marketplace full of the most cutting edge technology and creations that you can then offer to your users, and the users get the best functionality that they could have. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody is maximizing the value that they will receive from Enter the Void, and that's exactly how it will achieve the greatest success.
Yeah, and you know what too? It also improves the safety. You know, we like to say that you know, signing a smart contract, for those of you that have ever done that, you know, it connects into your MetaMask wallet, and you essentially accept the terms and conditions. It's no different than when you go to a website and it's like, hey, do you accept all cookies? It's like you don't really have a choice. it's like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's like I do. And most of the time, and this is how a lot of like phishing, you know, like phishing attacks and stuff like that happen, where it's like when you go to accept one of these contracts, you're not looking at the code and going, wait, before I accept this, let me read all the terms and conditions, aka the, you know, all the solidity code, and determining whether or not I deem this safe for myself. With us now, anything that goes through our open source library, which then runs on the network, has already been audited. So we're removing a lot of that potential for malicious or improper code to have some form of negative impact on a retail investor or token holder.
Yeah, and that's so important because, as I'm sure most people listening, they have, whether they've been exposed to malicious activity or a rug pull, they have seen and heard about a lot. So if you're going to be allowing developers to create customized code, you have to be able to vet that in some way. So talk to us a little bit about that. So a developer will come in and they were like, "Oh, I can build here. I can make some money." What's the process look like for a developer? And how long does that process take? What do they have to go through? Do they have to pay for anything to be able to submit a code to you guys? How does that look?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, great question. And this is where we can talk about a little bit of the utility for the token. Now, mind you, in a lot of cases, you know, and I wish I could flash you an example data type, but they're not super big. You know, it could be, you know, 10 lines of code or less even, you know. And so they're not super difficult to audit, you know, unless it's like some form of really complex logic. But essentially, how this is going to work is, you know, a developer, you know, as you're saying, hey, I have this data type, I want to get it audited. This is where the void is going to have a very robust governance structure. For those of you that are void pass holders, the void pass is like the apex of our governance. There's actually two, but we'll start with this. So those that are part of the void pass community will be able to actually cast votes on certain code. And I know you're asking, like, well, how many of these people in this community may actually be, you know, like qualified to say yes or no, whether or not this code is audited? We will have specific bounty programs that we're doing with our token in order to attract people and install them in specific community positions with our governance in order to be able to actually determine these things. And so I just want to get that out there. So what will happen is
Yeah.
it will go through this auditing process, which again might be like, hey, can you look at this for me? Yeah, it took me an hour to read through it. Let's all vote on it. You check off on it, check off on it, check off on it, vote to merge it, and boom, now it's in the open source library. Now you as the developer will pay for the time of the audit. And this will all be done through our ETV token. So it's one of the core utilities of ETV is developers who want to earn on their data types will pay to do this audit. And how much that stuff's going to cost, let me tell you this. It's not going to be as expensive as doing a smart contract audit, which is, I don't know if you've ever if you've ever tried to
Yeah.
go through there, you're talking like somewhere between $7,000 and $50,000 to do
You've got to
a
remortgage your house for
really.
that one.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's not going to be like that. If you're thinking about it, it's not going to be like that. But the developers will pay for that audit. But the benefit is moving forward. Now, one, if they wanted to launch a collection with it, then now they get to do it, and it's been audited, and it was much cheaper than auditing a smart contract. It's safe for everyone, and the benefit, added benefit, every time it's used, you're paid for it. So it's not so like it's kind of a generative economic model in a sense where it's like everyone's contributions lift up and innovate the network together. So that's how that will work. Then when it comes to like saying, all right, I want to use these data types to create this NFT, you'll pay for those data types with the token. So we're creating this, economy around this our developer ecosystem and our open source library, where developers are paying for audits, and then the community people are paying developers to actually build. For the data types that they're going to use in their NFT application.
Yeah, well, I think it's a worthy investment, and it's also a barrier to even to stop malicious actors even considering it, because one, there's going to be an audit, and two, they're going to have to pay for it. So what's the point?
Yeah, you're not going to
It's a
try to
waste.
sneak something
Yeah,
through. Like, yeah,
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 yeah. And it's part of the
yeah.
reason why, we've spent a lot of time building up our core community. Our tagline is community is everything, because, a lot of our original community members are people that, really care about the project. It's not just, we build that family feeling inside the Void.
Yeah, and you guys, your business model, what it is that you're doing with your NFGs, your smart NFTs, you have your Void Pass, which is the loyalty, increased benefits pass, which is part of what you guys do, adding in that logic in there to provide the people who have a Void Pass added benefits and loyalty rewards and all that kind of stuff. But that shows what this will be able to do for so many other projects and creators, is inspiring loyalty through community.
Oh
You
yeah,
guys are essentially
absolutely.
tokenizing. You guys are
Yeah.
tokenizing that, and
Uh,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, like, I didn't want to lose my thought, and I want to give a big shout out to our partners, 30 Press, who are doing more than you guys even know. The Void Governance Council and the system and the gamification around that with our Void Pass and our Voyager PFP collection is like anything else I've seen. I want to give a huge shout out to the guys over at 30 Press that have been working on that. I just got a document from them today, and we're truly creating a trust and time-based governance model that really gamifies the governance experience and adds that additional layer of security. And all that is going to be through our NFT collections, the Voyager PFP and the Void Pass. So it's going to be really exciting, but I can't wait to share more with everyone about it. But it's such a big thing that we're going to kind of wait off on a little bit. And then eventually we'll we don't want to overwhelm everyone with everything at one moment. So
100%. You've got so much going. It's very, very exciting for you. I think what you guys have done, I think what you guys have done is amazing. I love the branding behind the Void Pass. I think it's you're going to show through your Void Pass, you'll be able to communicate one of the many use cases of exactly what it is that you're building through that. And I think you'll find a lot of other projects and creators will sort of piggyback off of the way that you guys are doing it, and you'll inspire them as to how they can benefit from your technology. So that's it's great.
Well, funny thing here, and this gets into a whole new thing of what we're able to do with NFTs. So NFGP, our logic processing engine that we built, that essentially is able to run validation on these complex data types. That's the highest perspective. What does NFGP do? It allows us to turn these NFTs into like mini software applications that we can run validation on complex logic around. Now, here's the cool thing about that. And you mentioned, using your NFT collection in order to kind of showcase what's possible. We even thought about, now this isn't 100%, and my team is listening. They're probably shaking their head at me like, would you just shut up? But I'm just gonna say it. We've messed around with the idea, and we're kind of leaning towards it, of launching the Voyager collection as a Ethereum, as an Ethereum collection, and then using NFGP to demonstrate how, this is an Ethereum collection, but using a cross-chain entangled data type, we're able to literally make it feeless, increase the transaction times, add custom logic to it, and do all these wonderful things. Bring all this utility to this Ethereum collection using NFGP, even though it's an Ethereum NFT. And we thought about doing it just kind of as like a flex to, kind of show like, hey, we make this possible for everyone. And that's one of the great things about what we're doing is, it's not just that we're creating our own market for this and our own ecosystem of these smart NFT applications, but we can offer support to the existing Web3 world, meaning if the Bored Apes, for whatever reason, wanted to add all these custom configurations and extend, the functionality and utility of the Bored Apes by adding custom logic to it and integrating off-chain data resources and then being able to validate all of that, they can literally use NFGP to massively elevate the utility of their existing NFT collection. And it would be extremely safe. It's not like a cross-chain swap. It uses custom logic as I said before, and this is maybe worth a technical paper or something, but as a cross-chain entangled data type, it makes it possible to do all those amazing things while not compromising the security of the original NFT.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good idea to unpack that a little bit, because that's, I think what you just explained then is absolutely huge. Essentially, you are able to take your NFGP, which, just in case anybody wondered, it stands for Non Fungible Gadget Protocol. I hope I'm right.
Yep.
And you don't just only have the ability to create smart NFTs yourself and mint them in that way, but you can also do that with already minted NFTs on different blockchains.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's two different ways in which we add support for other chains. The first one is we can create data types in Solidity or in Rust that could run on Ethereum. This one, there's still some potential for some existing limitations, but mostly because of those programming languages and the way that it will run on their network. So keep that in mind. But if they wanted to use like a cross-chain entangled proxy NFT, then you can use whatever language, and we can literally go to existing NFT collections and just say, hey, you want to bring utility to your NFT, like custom utility, like in whatever way you want, you can use NFGP and do that and immediately add value to your token holders. So those are the two different ways that we can do that.
That's insane. Who's your CTO again? What did you say his name was?
His name is Tim. He's the GOAT, man. I can't say enough about.
Give
He's
him a
the
raise,
genius.
man.
Yeah, I know.
Give him a raise.
I know. He's the legend. He's the one that I remember. It was late. I mean, I can't say again enough, man. I love our team. These guys work all around the clock in order to make this happen. But it was later at night, and I got a call from him. He's like, I have an idea. He's like, we're gonna make us so much faster. And I was like, okay. I was like, let me hear it. And he tells me this, like, we create this logic processing engine that we can run validation on that allows us to essentially standardize this process and push it into essentially another subnet for validation, as opposed to ingesting it all inside our own layer one. And he was like, and the best part is we can make it language agnostic and open it up to everyone. And I was like, holy shnikes,
Holy,
dude. I
yeah,
can't believe it. So then the next
yeah,
day, I think we had a call with Wyatt, or no, that week we had a call with Wyatt, and we spoke to him about it, and he was like, wow. And then we had a call with Ben, and after that it was like, this is going to make, and here's the best part too, other state channels can use that. Like they can plug into that and leverage that in order to run NFTs for themselves too. So we make it just in general easier. Like we have a standardized formatted process for launching complex NFT applications with our solution that anyone in Web3 can use, whether you're on Ethereum or whether you're on Solana or whether you're a different state channel. It's completely up to you. So yes, we are building the new market for this, and we are also able to support other ecosystems. So, the impact of
yeah,
that, we don't know, but we'll
yeah.
see how it goes.
The thing is, it kind of begs the question of why launch on Ethereum when, I mean, I don't know too much about minting NFTs on Ethereum and the technical side of that, but listening to what you're saying, it's hard to understand what the need would be to do that. And what's the
Yeah,
benefit there?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you may run out of Ethereum projects to be able to customize in the end. But I mean, that's not a bad thing for you. But I think I think when in with this kind of tech, I can almost imagine your CTO, and he's standing up there on the whiteboard just scribbling like a crazy professor. Like I figured it out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how it felt. I mean, I remember being on the call and him being like, when it finally clicked in my brain, I was like, oh, I was like, no way. I was like, that is going to be incredible. So, and I want to say too, we've successfully tested and demoed it, and it all works.
That's amazing.
So this isn't just like an idea. Like we have an environment for this where we're actively like running these NFG applications. So
Yeah, epic. I have to say, I'm very impressed. I think you guys at this stage seem to have thought of it all, and I'm sure there'll be even more aha moments moving forward. So I think it'd be good now to sort of. I think we've covered the opportunity really well and
yeah.
how you guys are positioned to do that. I think that's you've explained that incredibly well. And you said very briefly at the beginning of the AMA that it started as a marketplace, and then you realized you were building the market. So you have 4 or 5 separate parts of this ecosystem now. It's not just the marketplace. There's other different parts. So
Hmm.
would you mind just unpacking what that looks like and how they all sort of fit together and work in unison to create this beast that you guys have?
Yeah, we call it the void ecosystem. It's like its mini sub galaxy or mini mini cluster inside the greater constellation world.
Yeah.
Essentially, when we first started out to build the NFT marketplace, you want to talk about being early. That's when we were like, okay, we have this amazing NFT marketplace, which by the way has had tons of development on. Depending on a couple things, you may see it open for beta testing by the end of the year. Don't hold me on that, everyone, but it's possible. It's in the ether, so
Yeah.
we'll just keep that in mind. Um, but we said, okay, great, we have this NFT marketplace. Where are the NFTs? Like, how are people making these NFTs? And we said, oh, there's so many different pieces to this. And then it's like, what's the NFT standard? And as many of you may know, we have Wyatt as our advisor, so we've been working with Wyatt pretty closely on a lot of these things. And essentially, that's how it's evolved from, hey, we're going to build a marketplace that will be open for all individuals to use and leverage. We'll have all these different features, such as the customization, which is like the branded approach, so people will be able to display their unique value inside the marketplace. We will accept DAG and ETV as native currencies with certain incentives for ETV. And so we kind of went through this journey of the marketplace to the standard. Okay, you sell an NFT, now what do you do with it? Because we didn't just want to create another market of like, useless images, for lack of a better, maybe way to put it, but we wanted to bring life to this new market. And that's when we started thinking about, okay, well, we will build VoidGate, which now you can use one of these NFTs to have some form of custom restriction. Like in our case, we're going to use the Void Pass as the Void Pass and the Voyager NFT for like voting, and you'll use VoidGate for that. So you'll authenticate your NFT. We will see that you're a holder, and you'll gain access to certain features and benefits in terms of governance or features inside the marketplace, like some premium features that we may have touched on or may not. It might be in the crypto paper that we haven't released yet. So, but that's kind of how this evolution went from, okay, we're a marketplace, we have this NFT standard, we are bringing life to this market, and we're going to not only bring life to it, we're going to unlock all possibility by creating NFGP that can be used by anyone. And that's kind of the journey that we've gone on.
So you could essentially create a DAO with these kind of...
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually one of the things that we plan on doing is going to DAOs and being like, hey, you guys have a DAO, you need like a secure way to like vote and authenticate users without like spending tens of thousands of dollars on a smart contract. Like you could easily do this with our stuff. Like no problem.
Yeah, that's I guess the possibilities. I mean, I'm obviously sitting here hearing you speak, and there's so many possibilities with this kind of technology. It really is sort of up to the imagination what you could do with it, which is incredible. So one part I really sort of jumped out of me as extremely valuable was the void link that you guys have.
Oh yeah.
the API. So I'll let you explain again about that, as you'll definitely articulate it better than me. But that was something that I thought was extremely valuable.
Yeah, and it's all about, how do we provide solutions to people that allow them to take advantage of the opportunity in this new NFT ecosystem. And VoidLink, it's an API, and there's two distinct different ways that users can use this API. And one of them is, we had a recent conversation with a different project who was interested in VoidLink because they could very easily integrate NFTs into their existing platform using our API and not having to go ahead and go through this whole process of building it themselves. So they could just leverage our technology, our solutions through our API in order to make NFTs an essential part of their platform. Now, just to give you like a simple example of what this may look like, let's say you're some form of online vendor. You're selling something online, but part of the checkout process, you have an individual connect a wallet. And let's say they buy a specific item, and once they buy that item and you have a connected wallet, it will automatically trigger an API call and automatically send you a receipt NFT or a reward NFT, reward points, an exclusive thank you item, or whatever you want to make it as the company using our API. So you can programmatically trigger, the creation or distribution of certain types of NFTs with our API. The second side of that, the less like magical part, I guess, if you will, is just using the API to like sell an NFT on your website. Let's say, you created Sykodelic.com and you want to sell psychedelic NFTs, you'll integrate our API and you can sell an NFT through your website. So it really unlocks the potential for, Web 2 businesses to extend their systems into Web 3 very easily with the use of our API.
Yeah, and again, it's just making the transition simpler and easier for these businesses to do. So you know, essentially you're saying here we have these smart NFTs will revolutionize the way you do business, will make you much more efficient, will improve security, etc., etc. And here's how easy it is. We've got unlimited use cases through our gig economy developers, and you can literally integrate this on your website and begin, minting yourself. And there you go,
Hmm. Yeah,
sort of
you've
slapping it down like a big book on the table.
yeah, yeah, and it's everything from simple simple NFT use cases like a customizable character that's like dynamic that changes based on some custom logic or let's say there's a membership subscription, and I wanted to go over this because I forgot it, but just to give you an example, let's say you mint a membership pass with a photo ID. That's a media data type. The pass is bound to a customer's wallet, so that's your ID in your wallet. That's a non-transferable data type. Then use the creator of this connects a payment gateway using any payment gateway, and that would be a recurring payment data type that would trigger payment. And then lastly, at the end of your membership period, the NFT would self-destruct and burn itself, which is a self-destruct data type. So all you got to do is essentially go through our open source data type library, pick these custom configurations, do some development work with our SDK or through Voidcraft to build this thing, and then next thing you know, you just created a membership subscription from audited code that you can use to literally run an entire business as a smart NFT application.
Yeah, and you're creating a trustless system for businesses to be able to process everything that they're doing. And I think that just provides it provides heaps of reassurance and certainty around how things are going to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's massive. You're essentially enabling this incredible added functionality in something that they have never had before, and it's they can easily program that and sort of set and forget, if you like,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
just crack on with it. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Web3 is hard. Web3 is hard. We're here to make it easy. It's complicated.
yeah,
We don't want Web2 and Web3 to drift farther apart. We want the two to coalesce into a healthy,
yeah,
thriving system, and that's what we're here to do.
yeah. And I think that's really where we are at this stage in the technological cycle. The first technology that comes out in a new revolution is never the best. It it paves the way forward. It shows what's possible. The world then all of a sudden now believes that it's possible because it's been done, and it opens up this avenue of just a completely different way of thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
it sets the world on a different path, and all of a sudden you experience this insane progression that happens so much faster than anybody could
Mm-hmm.
have ever anticipated. And if you think about the crypto space as a whole, I mean, Bitcoin's been around since 2009, but it wasn't until 2014 when Ethereum launched. So really, crypto has been around since 2009, but on the broader scale of things, it's only really, smart contracts have only been around for 9 years, and that's
Mm-hmm.
9 years. And now we're speaking to you about the developments and the iterations that you guys have created on that, and now it's blowing my mind hearing you speak and all the possibilities that I'm seeing from what it is that you're doing. So it's crazy how fast it progresses, and I feel like we're at the stage now where it's figuring out how we achieve mass adoption. And I think mass
Mm-hmm.
adoption is literally just around the corner. And I think the hypergraph, what Wyatt's built with DAG, has catapulted that forward and really paved the way. And the awareness that DAG has is so under the radar in the grand scheme of things, and it baffles me sometimes how it's not more known about. But I guess that just shows how early we are to this space and still how far it has to grow. And I don't know about you, but that really excites me.
Yeah, I've never been so early. I've never been so early that I had to help. Help set up.
Yeah.
You ever get to a party really early and they start handing you plates and stuff to put around the
Yeah.
table? Like that's kind of where we are. So
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah,
It's
that's
good,
awesome.
man. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, 100%. I think anybody that's listening should be super excited for this because, I mean, it's the use cases, like I've said a few times, are almost infinite and the world needs it. It's a product that is going to make things better, easier. And yeah, I think it will just be a
Hmm.
matter of time until this begins to, you know, become widely adopted. Now,
Yeah.
just moving on, I wanted to touch on your marketplace because
Hmm.
obviously that was the aim, that was the original, that was the OG idea.
Hmm.
And how would you describe the differences in your marketplace from one, let's say a traditional marketplace like something like eBay,
Hmm.
and the kind of NFT marketplaces that are around at the moment? What would you say is the main difference that you guys are bringing that is one-upping and taking that from sort of 0 to 1?
Yeah. So let's think about it from this way. I've done a lot of e-commerce stuff, so I'm very familiar with like the online marketplace, whether it's like Amazon, FBA, or Shopify, or haven't messed around with eBay too much.
Yeah.
But now, think what I love about a lot of these sites. There's some things I don't love and some things that I do love. There are some platforms that are better for other things than others. And one thing that I really like, and I'll just contrast, and I'll take us on a short journey here. Amazon basically created the ability for users to customize a storefront inside a local marketplace. Amazon realized that there's value in aggregating users into a single location. The exponential value of the traffic that comes from aggregating all these brands into a single location is huge. Shopify is a little different where you have this platform, which is more white label, where you create your own storefront, but there's no central location for all the traffic across all these different brands to aggregate to. We've taken more of that Amazon approach where you can set up, if you're whether you're a company, a business, an artist, whatever, whoever you are, if you want to display your unique value, your unique message inside the marketplace, you can show up, create a customizable storefront, and then you'll be able to essentially market yourselves. And that's what we wanted. So the void, you want to know one of the reasons why it was called the void was actually because we
Mm.
created a place for other businesses to fill. When you have a space that is completely empty and there's nothing in it, a void, the only thing that exists there is infinite possibility. That's why
Right.
we're the void. So we create this marketplace that gives people the potential and possibility to market themselves directly to everyone going to the marketplace. And so that's one key thing that's very different than some of the other marketplaces that you see kind of floating around in Web3. It's a very static UI, which is okay and has obviously proven successful in many cases, but we wanted to basically give more power to the users inside our marketplace. So that's one really big difference there. Aside from that, obviously the technology that it's running on and built on is very different. So if you were to, let's say, an Ethereum based marketplace like OpenSea, all those different metrics like floor price, volume, all those things, like you're not getting real-time analytics from all that stuff. It takes quite a bit of time to run those queries and get that information that would then be present to you as the potential token holder that wants to buy one of those NFTs. I mean, as soon as you refresh the page, you're getting updated information on metrics in regards to that collection, which is really interesting. So it's kind of living in that way. So that's another big difference. Myself coming from the e-commerce background and having and needing to access analytics from everything like who's on my site, who's spending how much time on my site, where's the traffic coming from, what are they doing, what are they clicking on when they're on my site. That type of user analytics for store owners is something that we're going to provide. It is obviously gasless, so you don't have to worry about these crazy fees. But also the auction system is going to be amazing. So we're creating a system of programmatic bidding. So essentially, it's kind of like it's like trading in a way where you can set your custom parameters. Like, all right, this NFT is, let's say, worth $10. And I want to do incremental bids of $5 every time I'm outbid until it reaches a certain price. That's like programmatic bidding. So you can set your custom parameters for how you want to bid on an NFT, and you can essentially walk away from your computer or whatever. Where on an existing marketplace, the only competition that's happening is from bidders that are there on the computer. So it kind of limits a lot of the gamification, which is, in an auction, competition is healthy. You want competition. Buyers are fighting for what they feel is a fair price, fair market value price. And we're creating the conditions in order to create that fair price for a much larger audience using programmatic bidding. The other side of that, which I really love because I think it's such a it's such a fun thing, is our anti-sniping feature of the auction as well. So essentially, I love this, dude. Puts such a grin on my face. It's so awful. Like, so for those of you who don't know what sniping is, let's say an auction is ending in 5 seconds and you have someone who's like the highest bidder, they're super excited, they're counting down, they're like 5, 4, 3, they think they're going to get this NFT, and at the last second someone places a bid and you lose it. It's awful. It happens all the time. People lose out. The people that thought they were going to win lost. The sniper is now the sneaky winner. If you go to snipe, if a seller wants to turn on anti-sniping on their auction, it's totally customizable. It's up to them if they want to turn it on. If someone goes to snipe an auction, it will extend the auction by like whatever time frame, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, 10 minutes, whatever they want to set it to. It will extend the auction. And what this does is it gives the person who thought they were going to win an opportunity to counter bid. And it creates more gamification. It can drive the price higher, creates a better determination of what the actual fair market value was. And obviously the seller wins because now they got a higher price, where before, without anti-sniping, there was no opportunity to counter bid. So we're creating the system as part of our marketplace.
You're sniping the snipers.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that happened to me. One time I was buying, I play hockey, and I went to go buy a hockey stick, and I was like shocked. I was like, I can't believe I'm about to get this new several $100 stick for only this much. This is crazy. And then literally last second, it got taken from me, and I was like heartbroken. So this has a special place in my heart as far as a feature goes. And lastly, we have a couple of community engagement features, such as giveaway as a service. If you want to run a giveaway, you can do so in our marketplace, where like you'll be able to host a giveaway. People will be able to pledge to participate in that giveaway. And they'll do that through a void credit, which you obtain through ETV tokens. So people may not know this at this point, but ETV is deflationary. So there's a ton of different community engagement features which allow brands to basically market themselves inside the marketplace in a safe environment, not like on Twitter. That will actually make ETV deflationary through the utilization of void credits.
Yeah, I think you've just dropped a lot of alpha there. There's a lot to take in. I love the I love the part. Obviously it was a sad moment for you losing the hockey stick, but it was almost like from that moment on, it was your destiny to snipe the snipers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was my
you've done
villain
it.
era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my
No,
villain arc or
that's
whatever they call it.
yeah. That's incredible, man. I think it's clear for everybody to see the level of innovation and forward thinking that you and your team have put into this project. It's not something that you've just thought of one idea and run with it. You've really fleshed it out and thought about every different area that this is going to come into contact with and how that can be made to be Web3 ready and provide as much value to every single person that comes into contact with that ecosystem. And that is things like offering anti-sniping. You're
Hmm.
providing reassurance to bidders that and to sellers that
Hmm.
their auctions are going to be fair. And I think that's really where decentralization comes in. It's creating a more trustless and sort of equal opportunity for participants to be involved in. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Yep.
very impressive. So I think sort of the last thing I really want to speak about, and I'm not too sure how much you can give me on this,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna see what I can get. What
Okay.
so your tokenomics paper
Uh-huh.
hasn't been released yet. I
Uh-huh.
was just wanting, obviously, you can speak as much or as little as you want. Completely respect your development process. But
Hmm.
so one common theme within projects that are building on DAG is the utility that they're able to
Hmm.
build into their token. Now, you've already touched, on some utility in terms of the developers funding their audits in the ETV token. But can you give us
Hmm.
any other information on the utility of the token? And if you're going to have staking mechanisms where
Hmm.
people are able to achieve through staking, will there be benefits and APY? And how does all of that how's that looking for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to do my absolute best to speak on what I can. Uh,
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
yes. So community-led audits done in ETV. Purchase data types done in ETV. Native currency for the utilization of all of our services. And let's say if the standard transaction fee in the marketplace is 3%, we'll knock that down if you sell and accept ETV. So we have some incentives as well to drive users to use that. Now, in terms of, we have, and you guys are going to see this. I worked with Wyatt on the crypto white paper, and we do use a rather very interesting mechanism to be deflationary that was modeled after the theoretical physics of black holes. So stick with me, stick with me for a second. But we
We're
we
going
actually
down it now.
modeled, yeah, we modeled the tokenomics of ETV to be deflationary, centered around the theoretical physics of black hole in order to slow down entropy and to lead to better intended outcomes. So when users
I love
look
that.
at the, yeah, because here's the problem. Here's what we tried to mitigate. One thing we didn't want to do is have like, and people I think will understand this, some crazy high APR for node operators that's like 25%, which creates consistent sale pressure forever for everyone. It actually is, it creates a lot of the issues very similar to like proof of stake, where like early adopters just win forever.
Yeah.
So we created the model in such a way that accomplishes, that de-risks that. So it solves that. And it has a deflationary, but also an emission aspect of it, where people that are running nodes, and there's two distinct different types of nodes that I'm going to talk about. Like one is a standard state channel node, where users will obviously earn ETV for validating transactions. But we also have storage nodes. So we're also using a different consensus mechanism in order to provide users that are providing us distributed storage to the marketplace rewards as well. So these are light nodes. And users that
Yeah.
run these storage nodes for us will be able to earn ETV in exchange for these resources. So there will be that mining program aspect of it. I'm sorry, not mining. Storage aspect of it, where users will be able to earn rewards for it. Obviously, the state channel nodes, people will be able to earn rewards. We also have some really fun things with the Voyager collection. It's like a whole nother waterfall of things that's going on, because like I said, governance for us is a really important thing given the way that we're structuring a lot of our things. And again, big shout out to 30 Press. Please follow them on Twitter. They are rock stars. You guys have no idea. And so the Voyager PFP will have some really unique utility in regards to governance in the game that also has many opportunities for rewards. So it being deflationary, a native currency for the services and through the marketplace, it being used for the developer economy, people buying and auditing data types. The goal is to basically bring adoption to our services and our solutions. And so, we can only guess on what that might turn out to be one day.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate you giving us what you can there. I think that's very, very, very well put together. So I guess just the last question from me, and then we'll head over to some community questions if you have time. I know we've already had you on for an hour and a half, Eric. I really appreciate
Oh man,
you.
this is my life. This is what I do all day. If I
Yeah,
don't do it with you, I'm going to do it with someone else the moment I get off. So
yeah,
that's fine with me.
yeah. Live it and breathe it. That's the way.
Yep.
Oh, cool. So now you have kind of touched on this just now, but I think one of the main things for investors at the moment is number one, utility, but number two, number two is revenue. What when you're looking at an investment opportunity, you got to think, well, how are they creating? What's their revenue source? So what does that look like for ETV? So you mentioned you have transaction fees. If you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit more information on how that works, if you can, and is there anything, do you have any other revenue streams? I don't know whether you can give us too much information on that, but maybe just a broad sort of scope on how the actual business side of it is going to work for you.
Yeah. The actual revenue model is something, and I'll give what I can without divulging the whole strategy. But the actual
Sure.
business plan, a business strategy and revenue model that we have, is actually one of the things that we're most excited about. A lot of people have really hard time monetizing their protocol, which some people find that negative, but like that's how the ship keeps running, especially in times like this. So for us, we're largely transaction based, and where we have all these different services, VoidGate, VoidLink, VoidCraft, and VoidMarket, those are our products and services that are built around NFGP, and then the token essentially fits into every single one of those services. So there's utility for every service with the token. And like I said, there's certain transaction fees that happen at certain steps that allow us to maintain proper business operations.
Awesome. I appreciate you giving us what you can there, Eric.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it. Now look. I've really enjoyed this chat. I think it's great to hear exactly what you guys are up to and just sort of piece together the whole plan, and how large this could really be in the future of this space that we're doing. So just want to say congrats to you and your team for putting together something revolutionary, and I have no doubt that it's going to succeed once we get this bloody bear out the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, And so look, I think
Just got a phone
we've had
call. Yeah.
that's all right. Just scrolling through the void questions, and it looks like we've got quite a lot here. So I guess maybe we'll just have a look through and just pick a couple.
All right.
Pick a couple. So first question is, what will the functions, utility, benefits, and attributes be if you're a void pass holder? So I think you have touched on this a little bit, but maybe just
I'll
unpack
elaborate.
that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, the void pass specifically, people that hold a void pass will be the only people that are able to make a void improvement proposal. So from a governance standpoint, and that's why we did such a thorough job on making sure that people in our community were holding void passes. It also brings more, how do I want to say this? It also brings more utility to the pass itself, because now if you wanted to, be part of the governance structure like that, then you'd have to acquire one of these passes. There's also reduced transaction fees. So in the marketplace, we massively reduce your transaction fees from 3 to 1%. On top of that, you get special access whitelisting. You essentially guarantee that any NFT that we sell, whether it's a Voyager NFT or anything here on throughout the future, you're automatically guaranteed a spot, period. You're our VIP in that sense. Yeah. Anytime we also go to do like an event or something, like one of the things, like, you guys know me, like I love the community. I love doing the community stuff. I would love nothing more than to host a legit live in-person void event. And we would do some really cool stuff for our void pass holders who are our VIPs.
Let's do it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I can't wait. We're totally going to do it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out in a Voyager spacesuit. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There were some other pieces of that.
Yeah, it was just
hold on.
Yeah,
what was it? Hold on though. There was another part that I forgot. It was governance, it was reduced fees, it was that. I know I'm missing a big one. I'm probably going to get a text from Andy or something in like 2 seconds, and he's going to be like, "You idiot." Whatever. There's a number of different unique properties to premium features for the marketplace. All those premium features that I spoke about, like gaining access to certain things, like the giveaway as a service, like free for you. Boom, done. Like you gain access to those premium features that allow you to participate in like community engagement events inside the marketplace. So another benefit for our friendly Void Pass community.
Awesome, man. Love that. I think that's very sought after. I want one.
Dude, message me.
Yeah.
Everyone who doesn't have one on this call, just send me a DM. If you've listened to me babble for the last hour, just please message me if you don't have one. I would be more than happy to get you on a list.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's very kind of you. So I just want to say thanks to the Daggins Layer who gave us that question. Love the name as well, buddy. Thanks for that. And then we've got Miguel. He's a top DAG Chad here in the DAG and DeFi Discord. I appreciate you listening here, mate, and putting your questions forward. He's asked, so he's gone into quite a lot of detail, but I'll try and summarize it. He's asked so anyone that publishes to ETV state channel that's not published on the open source library gets denied. And we've covered that in terms of how it has to go through the auditing process. But then he's asked, if that is correct, do you think this would disincentivize centralized companies that developed closed source applications? Or would the community audit be done with a zero knowledge proof? Or would all incentives to be closed source be eliminated because once it's an NFT, no third party could copy it and monetize it for themselves?
Yeah. So I will say they're obviously using this system benefits to being open source. For example, like the added security, right? So there's that one aspect. But for those that, like, let's say we worked with like Bank of America or something, and they had some form of Web3 application they wanted to build for user data at specific geolocations, very sensitive information. They could build that as a closed automated Web3 application. The difference is that it wouldn't interact with other users. So it doesn't have the potential to now be, let's say, like tradable on the open market, which why would it be?
Yeah.
Like there, so it wouldn't be tradable on like the open market in order to expose people to those closed applications. But there will be companies that want some form of closed application. But again, there's greater incentive to be open, and they can still do it. We're not denying them. But if you plan on interacting, engaging with retail,
Yeah.
you plan on doing something malicious or improper, or you don't want to go through the process and you want to create something that could put other people at risk, it's not the Void saying no, it's the community. It's not the Void as a company saying you can't create an NFT. No, like that's why we have governance. Like the community governance is deciding whether or not that is
Yeah.
allowed, yes or no. So
Yeah. Well,
it is
it
decentralized
is.
in that way.
Yeah, and it's the right thing to do at the end of the day. Protecting your user base. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the right decision. Cool, man. So we'll just do maybe one or two more, and then we'll let you head off. This is one that's been asked by. It's pretty much the same question by LA and accountant UWU. How's it going, guys? Appreciate you being here. Essentially, they both asked, "What's the go-to-market strategy to reach Web2 devs? Not everyone is on crypto Twitter. Would it
Right.
be other social platforms such as LinkedIn, things like that?" And then one of them said, "There's an app called Blind that's heavily used by devs in Web2. Maybe going into the crypto blockchain section or even layoff section, although it's a bit on the nose, would be effective to reach and attract devs." What's your
Mm-hmm.
sort of take on that? Do you have, do you have a strategy as to how you could look to onboard these devs and onboard traditional businesses that aren't aware of blockchain and NFTs right now, but maybe know the benefits that they offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, and this is something we've gone over ad nauseum lately as internally. So, as far as like the Web2 businesses, they're what we call stage 3. So, what needs to happen first and what is going to happen first is very likely, because it's a warmer market, we will be working more closely with existing collections or new collections. And this will
Yeah,
essentially show people what's possible when we have, because traditional business, especially large businesses, aren't very keen on taking the first jump unless they have all the resources in the world to make up for their mistakes. So
yeah,
there's that aspect of it. So the first thing that we will be doing is working with existing collections and new collections that are Void native. Now, as it relates to specifically developers, we're going to be working with specific groups, seeking partnerships with specific groups of developers. Maybe it's like of open source technology. Maybe it's something like Red Hat or something, or what have you. Basically, different developer communities. But here's the important part: is that it will click for them the moment they see it. They want to get their
yeah.
hands dirty. They want to get in there. They want to play with it. They want to see what's possible. And we're waiting till we get to that more flushed out stage before we go full force on the developer community, because they're going to want to play. And we need to be
Sure.
fully prepared for an influx of developers building all these different things. So we have to be very pertinent mindful of who we're bringing into the ecosystem and when.
Yeah, and I think that it's not, it's not all about explosive growth, is it? And
Yeah.
having heaps and waves of developers and users flooding in. When you're building something that's proprietary and novel, like what you guys are doing, it's the slow path is the good path, because it enables you to audit, manage, and assess your performance data, what works, what's not working
Mm-hmm.
as you're growing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses, they want that quick growth. And that's one of the good things about launching and building in the bear market is, the crypto is, crypto's dead. You've got nowhere near the mass numbers
The
of
pressure.
people that are,
It's the
yeah,
pressure.
exactly. Yeah, it takes the pressure off. And I think
Yep.
it's almost a relief, isn't it, in a way for projects, because you're like, oh, I can take a bit of time off the community side of things and just really focus on building this out, making it what it's going to be. And I'm in no rush to make this massive, because I believe in its potential, because of the time and effort that we've put into building out this, undeniably valuable product that in the end we're going to be, so overwhelmed with how many people are coming and using it. So there's definitely
Yeah.
benefits to that.
It's a whole new world. And yeah, you don't want to, some businesses destroy themselves by scaling too quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
it's
So
tricky. It's timing, and
yeah,
yeah, the bear market is a relief for sure.
yeah. Okay, cool. So I think we'll just do one more, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So, good question again from Miguel here. He said, can the token holder of the NFT, for example, a BAYC, develop their BAYC as a non-fungible gadget with added utilities? Or would that conflict with Yuga Labs? Or would that be up to the token holder? So,
Right. That's a good question.
yeah. I mean, the individual. I suppose when you own some, like the whole point of
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
NFT is digital ownership, isn't it? So
Yeah.
surely
So
it's on them.
yeah, so essentially, and there is a couple different ways you can look at this. First, Yuga Labs purportedly gives their token holders, the Bored Ape Yacht Club holders, uh, intellectual property rights, with in regards to some usage. So they could, if they wanted to, yeah, they could turn that into an NFG if they wanted to. It seems like they can. I don't know what they would have to say about it, but let me
Yeah.
put it this way: it's possible on our end, so they can do that. As far as like creating a whole new NFT just as a copy of their Bored Ape, yeah, but then it kind of loses the premise of like being a, you know, now you have a duplicate, So I don't know. You wouldn't create a new one. You would basically use a specific data type, which I've mentioned before, which is the cross-chain entangled proxy NFT. And you would essentially
Yeah.
turn your Bored Ape into a mini application that has whatever custom configuration you want.
Yeah, that makes sense. Essentially, you have the ability to do it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
there, and that will be adopted, that will be used by people. So now that makes sense. And look, I think just to finish it off, I appreciate, for every project, dates are a pain, and people asking you when this, when that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if possible, just a really, really vague sort of overview as to how you guys are looking, because I know you've been talking about your pre-sale and all that sort of stuff. So maybe if you just give us the quarters that you guys are looking to do some things, just to give the listeners, because I'm sure the listeners are going to be insanely bullish on what you guys are doing after this conversation. They're going to be,
Yeah.
their mouths are going to be watering, sort of, thinking about how they can get involved with this. So just in a very vague sense, what's
Mm-hmm.
the general sort of roadmap for you, and as vague as you want to go?
All right. So the marketplace itself is looking on the horizon for this uh, by end of year for testing.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
will allow a number of authorized individuals, in far as like collections go,
Yeah.
to work with us. The second half of that is going to be allowing specific users, and that's where the great thing we have this Void Pass community. So
Yeah.
it's going to be helpful for things like bug testing and making sure everything's good to go. As far as when other things may launch, we're looking to take the path of the L0 token in terms of launching a token. We are doing everything possible to not launch an ERC20 token and having to worry about swapping it over. So that is like kind of basically going to be our path for that. And people can look to that probably before the end of the year. Maybe not to have the actual L0 token. That might be like a January, maybe February thing. I don't know. Don't quote me on these things, guys. I'm just like thinking very broadly. I'm talking very broadly.
I think it's more just after a conversation like this, I think it's more just for the guys to have a general idea as to how you guys are sort of positioning what it is that you're doing. And the thing is, when you're building something like this, there is no point in giving dates until you know the date, because whenever you build something, whether it's a house or a business or anything, there's two things you can guarantee pretty much: is one, you're going to go over budget, and two, it's going to take longer than you initially realized. So you find that when projects give out specific dates, they end up shooting themselves in the foot, because all it does is create negative sentiment about them pushing it back and pushing it back. And that's just, anyone that's built a business will understand and will be able to sympathize that it just takes time, and it always takes longer. So you're better off keeping it close to your chest and being extremely vague and,
surprising people.
Under speaking and over delivering.
Yeah. And so we'll keep it at that. Let me put it this way. We've made great progress. We have a working product. We are very much in the same bucket as everyone else as it relates to the readiness of the hypergraph, and that's just standard. But we want to get this out as quickly as I can and as safe as it could possibly be.
Sure. And it's about building. You want to deliver something that works, that's ready to go to market. That it's, unfortunately, in crypto, weeks seem like months, and everybody wants what they want now. People aren't willing to be patient, but unfortunately, you can't get away from the fact that real tech and real utility and value being built takes time, and that's a good thing, because when it eventually comes around, it is worth it, and it will really achieve what it's been set out to achieve, instead of rushing to put something to market and it being underwhelming. It's just, that's not how you want to go. So it's great to hear that you guys are taking that approach, and I'm sure everybody listening, that's really bullish on this and would like to get involved at some point, will agree. So
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, man. I mean, wow, what a conversation. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I could probably sit here and talk to you for hours and hours on end with endless questions. So maybe we'll have to do it again sometime when things are moving forward a little bit more, and we can unveil more of the beast that you guys are building.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure. I've had a great time having a conversation with you and talking to everyone. And we've got some exciting things on the horizon, and we're excited to do it with all of you. So it's been a real pleasure, and it's only going to get more exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Listen, Eric, thanks so much for your time, mate. And yeah, just, much love to yourself and the team, and keep grinding it out. I really think you guys are onto something special here, and I wish you all the best with the future developments. And yeah, we'll stay in contact, and would love to have another conversation with you again to hear about, I'm sure, all of the new amazing things you guys have now realized that you still want to build on top of this, and keep in contact with you in the community as you guys work towards the inevitable launch at some stage.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, and I look forward to it.
Awesome. Listen, you enjoy the rest of your day, Eric, and look after yourself and keep smashing out that good work, and we'll
Yeah.
Cool. We'll speak again soon.
Yes, sir. You too. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. See you later. Awesome, guys. Really appreciate everybody tuning in for the AMA. I'm sure you can agree with me. That was a whopper. What a project that is going to be. I think the use cases for ETV are going to be insane, and yeah, they're only just getting started. So hard to argue that there isn't a more exciting space at the moment than the Constellation and DAG ecosystem. The utility, the use case that's coming out because of the hypergraph is, yeah, unbelievable, really. So super pumped to be here, and I'm super pumped that you guys are still here. The markets are in a terrible state at the moment, and engagement's down. Yeah, it feels like more and more people are leaving every day, but this is where you find the real value in projects. I mean, what we're doing right here, hearing about projects like Enter the Void and, Wand last week and Obius. It's just there's so much innovative tech being built that, it's hard to not see it be adopted. And you guys being here at this stage are going to be on the right side of history, and patience will prevail. Try to ignore fluctuations in the market, day to day. At some point, we will come out of this, and by positioning yourself in the best possible situations, keeping up to date with the information, and not giving up, you will be the ones that all of the people that left will be wishing got in when you did. So yeah, really appreciate you guys being here, and we'll continue to build up this community and yeah, take it as far as we can. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch up with you all in the chat soon. Have a good one. See you later.